Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekly Tax Talk. And this is week 8. I skipped the 1 week that we missed a couple weeks ago in the numerical order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink a couple of things. And I want to be able to see this on my phone. So I think what I have to do is, do I always seem to fumble at the beginning of every one of these? Let's see, I want to go back. Now let's go to here. I go to me, and I want to be able to see this. Okay, what if I just go in here? Okay, so I'm not able to see it on my phone. I don't know how these guys do this. I want to be able to basically see your comments during the tax talk, and I'm having a little trouble figuring that out. Oh, I know what I got to do. Hang on a second. I want the news feed, right? I got my producer next to me here. Bear with me here. So let's go to home. No, here we go. Let's go to this. Okay, is this it? No, that's not it. Okay, we're having a good time here. Hang in there. We're going to talk about taxes, my favorite thing. The big thing we want to talk about today is tax season's over. Okay, so I can't get my phone to work, and I know it's supposed to. I just don't understand. Barb says, happy Saturday. Hi, Barb. Thanks. Okay, does this appear for everybody? So we're just going to do this. And it's real simple. I'm of the hope that as your messages come in, I'll be able to see them. So I want you guys to ask questions. That was 2 minutes that you can't get back, but let's talk. First thing, it's May 15th, and under normal circumstances, which has been anything but normal since March of last year, the tax season would have been over a month ago today, actually, May 15th being 1 month exactly after April 15th. But as it turns out, May 15th falls on a Saturday, and the tax season was extended. And as most of you know, and if you don't, then it's a rude shock, but tax deadline is actually Monday, May 17th. So you have, well, it's noon now, so what is that? 60 hours, 59 hours and 55 minutes to get your tax return filed. So stop goofing around. If you're not ready, file an extension. But keep in mind that, again, as always, I'll say it and say it and say it. You file extensions and you believe you're going to owe when you get around to doing your filing, you want to make a payment with the extension, because extensions are an extension to file, but not an extension to pay. That's straight out of the Internal Revenue Code, okay? So what that means is you're pretty sure you're going to owe $4,000, but you just don't have it all together yet. Somebody owes you some paperwork. You don't feel like it, whatever reason, the bank's goofing around on you, can't get your statements. Great, file an extension, but make a payment with it, because if you owe $4,000 and you file your taxes in August or September, you're going to pay interest on every month, starting with June 15th, July 15th, August 15th. It accumulates monthly and it compounds. So the more you can pay with your extension, the less you pay when you file. So there's a very important tip, and I'm certain most of you know that, but it's a good thing to remind everyone of. Now, it is May 15th of a very long tax season that is going to be over in 2.5 days on my clock, and I feel like talking about it, but honestly, I don't know what to say except I'm exhausted. It's been really stressful. We've actually gone through a couple of changes during this tax season. We've learned a lot about not only the way that we do our business, but the way the Internal Revenue does theirs, the Internal Revenue Service, I should say. One thing is that, remember, if you go back to February 12th, do you remember what that date was? That was the day they opened e-file. Now, that usually happens the last week of January. Why the 2-week delay? simple stimulus payments. They have been overburdening the Internal Revenue System with the necessity of paying millions of Americans extra money, stimulus payments. We found out this past year that the stimulus payments actually became a part of the 2020 tax filing. They call it the EIP stimulus. Round one was the spring of 2020. Round two, most people with direct deposit and had filed a tax return got theirs the first week of January of 2021, but it became a part of the 2020 tax filing season because if you, for some reason, didn't get all of your stimulus, and this was a common theme, I had 3 or 4 clients actually that had a new baby sometime in the second half of 2020. Well, as it turns out, you get paid for the new baby, like the marriage status. You have a child if you that child came into the world on or before December 31st of that year. For tax purposes, that's basically your dependent for the entire year. So that's kind of a nice thing that they do. It basically makes it fair for everybody. I think there's a reason behind that, but what that means for people that had a birthday a baby, well, yeah, birthday, August, September of 2020, their stimulus was based on 2019 filing or even 2018 if they were behind on their filing. So what that means is that the baby didn't get counted. And let's say the family already had 1 kid. So you got mom, dad, 3-year-old kid, new baby. So in the spring, you got paid for 2 adults, $1,200 each or $2,400, and you got $500 for the kid. So that should have been a $2,900 stimulus payment. And chances are you probably got it. As long as your family made under $150,000 in 2019, then you are entitled to the entire payment. Between 150 and 200, of course, was a phase out, and at 200,000 and up, no stimulus for you because they figure, well, you're making enough money, you're okay. So you have your new baby later in the year, but you still haven't filed your taxes because it's not coming until early 2021. So stimulus 2 comes around. That one's based on family members at 600 per, so that should have been 1,800. So you got 2,900, you got 1,800, you got a new baby. They're expensive, and they get more expensive as they get older, by the way. Newsflash. Spoiler alert there. But so now, basically, you're entitled to $500 from the spring and $600 for the new baby. Well, they figured it out. The stimulus payments were actually what's known as a tax credit. And tax credits mean that it reduces your tax liability to the Internal Revenue Service dollar for dollar. Under normal circumstances, you get tax credits when you file for the tax season the following year. And oh, I'm getting some questions. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me finish my thought. Where was I? Squirrel moment there. So it being a tax credit, but in the case of economic stimulus payments, they simply were paid in advance during the tax year instead of during the tax season. So how does a new baby get the payment? The recovery rebate credit is what they called it. And it also was in effect for people that did not get all of their stimulus for any one of a number of other reasons, but the new baby scenario is the one that I saw the most, probably about half the time. So there were other things involved. Maybe somebody hadn't filed tax returns until later in 2020, and so they got stimulus January 2021, but they missed out on the first one, that kind of thing. Here's another thing that happened a couple of times. I have some, excuse me, Zoom meeting's overheating. I've got a little fan to run here. So another thing that happened was I had people who made quite a bit of money in 2019, close to the $200,000 limit or over. But 2020 wasn't so red hot because of COVID. They're the kind of business where they have to deal with the public, and the public suddenly couldn't deal with them anymore, work with them. And so suddenly their 2020 income was significantly below $150,000 for married filing joint. By the way, all these numbers I'm spitting out here are cut in half if you're single or married filing separate. I had it happen a couple of times where no stimulus for you during 2020 because you made too much money in 2019. But then I did the 2020 return for them in February or March of 2021, and voila, instant recovery rebate credit. Why? Because they qualified for it in 2020. So if you haven't done your return yet, yeah, there's kind of a possibility you're missing out on some money. In fact, I'd like to go back to one last thing here. And that is a bulletin just came out from the Deputy Director of the IRS. I was going to pull it up and show you on a screen share, but basically I remember the gist of it. It's simply this: you don't have to file a tax return if you make less than $400 in business income in a year, or you make less than the standard deduction in wage earner income, which is $12,400, or $24,800 if you're married filing joint. Matter of fact, there's a number in between. I think it's $18,650 for head of household. You don't have to file a return if any of those situations apply. But if you do have a self-employed business income and you're a sole proprietor, you do have to file if you made over $400. Your federal government wants your self-employment tax, Social Security, Medicare. More on that later. It's a linchpin of my practice. But what was my point here? The Deputy Director of the IRS came out with a bulletin, and he was talking about the possibility that even if you don't have to file a return, you may want to go ahead and do it anyway, because having a return on file basically entitles you to any future stimulus that may come down the pike. Because I'm seeing a thing, and I don't want to get too much into politics or anything polarizing, but it's my understanding that less than half the country is now vaccinated. Under 50%, and that's great. We are, both me and my wife, we're fully vaxxed, ready to go. We do still wear our masks when we go out because not everybody is, and there's also the possibility that it still carries on people's breath. So that's our thing, and I don't want to get in an argument about it. So keep asking your questions. I'm going to get to them in a second. Main thing that I want to make a point on that is there is a possibility that if there's a resurgent variant, this, that, the other thing, the possibility of future stimulus is not completely out of the question. So if you don't in normal years file a tax return, but you had difficulty getting your stimulus, I can think of one person that I did back returns for, no stimulus because that person did not know how to go to the Get My Payment website and did not have any tax returns filed. So they didn't know he was out here eligible for money. So filing tax returns kind of puts that little issue to bed. Now, I want to get to some of this. Maria says, heck, I need to call you. I needed to see this. Hey, Maria, how you doing? Hi, Amy, how are you doing? Okay. Let me answer your very intelligent looking question here. How does the third stimulus payment work for the new baby if the taxes are just now being filed? Will they get it this year or next year? If you're just now filing, as long as the baby was born on or before December 31st, they're eligible for the recovery rebate credit in the filing you're doing. Now, if they were born January 1st or later in 2021, and there's a good point. Okay, I think the answer to that is there is an IRS website that deals with the current round of economic stimulus, round 3, which was signed into law in March. And I believe there might be a way to go on there and let's play, because nobody else is asking anything. Hang on a second. I do this with clients all the time, so why not? I want to get a clean browser window up. Bear with me a second here, and I'm going to share a screen with you. And that's why I really like, okay, I need a new browser. Sorry guys, we're getting there. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're gonna shrink you, share you, go to here. Okay, so you guys should now be seeing my browser window. IRS get my payment, I believe it was called. And see where it says coronavirus get my payment? I've been there before. If you type IRS get my payment into your search engine or the URL bar, if you've got Chrome or Opera like I do, hit enter on your keyboard. Third round of economic stimulus. This will not work for round 1 and 2. You have to actually open an IRS online account, okay, to look for information on that. Get my payment. I'm thinking that there really ought to be a way for you to tell the Fed about your baby and get a back payment. So I would start with this. So I hope that answers. Amy, did that answer the question? Let me see. The third stimulus payment worked for the new baby. I guess the thing I don't know in your question, if you want to pop in there and say so, is when was the baby born? Which year? Can you tell me that? If you don't answer in the next couple of minutes, I'll assume you had to get off. Oh, okay. If they haven't filed the taxes yet, the new baby will be on the tax return. This is, yeah, 2020, gotcha. So the new baby needs a social security number. That's paramount importance. So if that hasn't been done yet, that's step 1. And then get the taxes filed. And if they aren't planning on doing Monday, get an extension in, especially if they're wage earners and they're expecting a refund. The extension's important, but not critical, because if you actually owe money, I mean, if the Fed owes you money and you're absolutely 100% sure, you have 3 years to file to get it. And you can do that without an extension. But if there's any gray area and you're not sure, get the extension in. You have till 11:59 p.m. midnight to do that, okay? And I'm going to show everybody something real quick here. If you type form 4868, hit enter. See where it says PDF at the end? That's what you want. Now, this is the silliest thing in the world. Watch this. All you have to do is print page 1. Don't print all 4 pages of this. You don't need it. Cut off the bottom where it says detach here. Fill all this stuff in accurately. You need your spouse's SOCH if you're married filing joint. Matter of fact, married filing separate, I think you do too. Estimate of total tax liability. If you're not sure or you just don't want to make a payment, then put a 0 here, put a 0 here, and then put a 0 and 7. Okay. And chances are you're not checking these boxes unless there's citizenship issue. Cut that off and mail it in, and where to mail should be here. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So all the addresses are on page 4, but just print page 1. That's the easiest way to get this done. And then just stick in an envelope, put a stamp on it. If you are in Florida, for example, I've got people that are. So look it up, look it up, look it up. It's going to be out here. There's the South, but not the Southeast. Where's Florida? Oh, way up here. Okay. So you just mail your 4868 to here. Okay. Now, if you're not making a payment, actually mail to Austin, Texas. And I would, by the way, write Internal Revenue Service above whatever this says. Wherever it says just a city, that's all you need, Internal Revenue Service, and then Austin, Texas, blah, 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 blah. If you are inserting a check in it, make sure you use the center column. Okay. Who else has questions? Anybody? That was a good one, Amy. Thanks so much. Yeah, that's pretty important because we're down to 59 hours and 40 minutes. So if you're going to postal mail this, by the way, it needs a postmark by Monday night. I don't know if you can go inside post offices. I go out so rarely to mail things in paper anymore. You can, and they'll postmark it if it drops in the box?
Yeah.
Okay. Vice President says it's not a problem. So just get down there and get a postmark on it before midnight if you're going to do it. Failure to file has its own penalties, and that's every month or a portion of a month. A portion of a month is even a half a day. So yeah, it's just best to, I don't want you guys to ever pay a penny more than you absolutely have to. Actually, Internal Revenue Service funding is expensive enough. So that's what I do for a living here. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anything at all? I am going to get off a share while I'm sitting here and looking at myself. I can see myself bigger. So Uh, so it's been a really good tax season. I do have some things to talk about in regards to Owings Tax and Accounting. We got big changes on the horizon, and that includes our tax division. So what I want to do first is make sure I've got everybody where they want to be by midnight Monday, and then we're going to probably talk about that next Saturday, the 24th. I will share one last thing with everybody. I have been pushed by my mentor, coach, whatever you want to call her, that I need a break, and I have to promise to take one after tax season. And in fact, I've actually already arranged it. I'm driving up to Montana to watch my one and only granddaughter graduate. She's going to be a high school graduate. She's commencing upon the world. And so I will be out of the office definitely between the 3rd and probably the 7th to the 8th. I'm going to come back, clean up a couple of things on the 9th and 10th, and I'm going to go up to Denver Airport and pick her up. She's going to visit us here. So there's going to be a 3-week period when I'm mostly not taking any bookings or appointments. So if you do go to my Calendly link, you will note, I believe the 1st and 2nd, the 9th and 10th do have some slots open on them if you need something. Don't just go there right now, book something though, unless you absolutely need it. And the other thing is that I'm working from now all the way until May 31st, if I've got availability open. And in fact, I don't think I even blocked off Memorial Day yet. I should, but honestly, it's the day before the end of a month, and end of month is a busy time for bookkeepers and accountants. So chances are I'm probably going to leave that open for maybe a couple of appointments before I block it off. So in any event, we are definitely working the second half of May, and I just want to let you know about June because Eric needs a break. So, but break's not over yet. I mean, the break isn't coming yet, and we're here if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. We're available on Facebook. You can click someplace on my home timeline page to get my email. That's a great way to ask questions. You click on my cover photo where it says schedule time with me. If you want to schedule a free consultation call for future services. One last thing, and spoiler alert, is as far as individual income tax returns, do it and we're done for a year. We actually are no longer operating in that fashion. We are still doing taxes, but we're doing taxes exclusively for people that work with us year round. Two major reasons. One is you basically have tax obligations and issues and concerns throughout the year, and we're better able to serve both the new clients that are coming in as well as the ones that we currently have by moving exclusively to that model. So if anybody has any head scratching moments over what that means, please do write us an email or drop in and say something in direct message. And until next week, and that's high noon Rocky Mountain High time. So until next week, have a great week, and don't forget about the deadline, Monday at midnight. Until then, talk soon, stay safe, be healthy, and do something randomly kind for somebody. Bye for now.